Hello, Sanu, Hujambo, Salam. I'm Tembekile Mkhototo, and this is Unwrap Africa, where every week we focus on the latest news, trends, and successes of the African continent. Siyaqhaqha. As we get going this evening, we want your thoughts on one of the main stories on the continent over the last week and a half, and that's, we want your take. What is your take, in fact, on US President Donald Trump's threat to send troops to Nigeria because of the alleged persecution of Christians in that country, despite denials by the government? We'll take your thoughts on voice note. The WhatsApp number is +27 78459 1897. You can also find us on Facebook. SABC Unwrap Africa is where we are, and on X at SABC News_TV. Let's have a look at the main stories then from this week. The Nigerian government has dismissed US declarations of the country as a nation of concern for religious freedom, saying it's based on faulty data. Nigerian officials say they welcome American help against Islamist insurgents, provided it's all respectful of Nigeria's sovereignty. It's after the American government accused Nigeria of allowing the persecution or genocide of Christians in the country, which the country denies. Mass killings have been reported after the city of Al Fasher in Sudan fell into the control of the paramilitary rapid support forces. Aid agencies are warning of a worsening humanitarian crisis as civilians there are being targeted and families are still trying to flee conflict zones. In Tanzania, President Samia Suluhu Hassan has been sworn in for her first elected term after a poll that returned nearly 98% of the vote and sparked protests over opposition exclusion. Hundreds of people were reportedly killed in a post-election crackdown by the government. Zoran Mamdani, born in Kampala, Uganda, has drawn on his childhood in Africa to shape a progressive vision that's now helped him to be elected new mayor of New York City in the United States. His campaign focused on affordability and inequality. He's also the first Muslim mayor of New York. The MTC Windhoek Fashion Week has marked its 10th anniversary, highlighting Obalero culture through traditional inspired designs. The event connects Namibian fashion to broader African and international markets. The African Union Commission is now urging the United States to back off and engage in dialogue with Nigeria rather than resorting to military threats. The AU Commission has emphasized Nigeria's right to handle its own internal issues, citing the country's significant role in regional stability as well as counter-terrorism efforts. SABC News correspondent Tessem Akende has more from Nigeria.
The African Union Commission has called on the United States to respect Nigeria's sovereignty and pursue diplomacy instead of threats of military action. This comes after US President Donald Trump named Nigeria as a country of concern, a designation of nations accused of violating religious freedom. President Trump claims Christians are being persecuted in Nigeria, saying thousands have been killed by Islamic insurgents. He warned he could send troops and cut all U.S. aid if the violence continues. Members of the U.S. Congress have backed his stance, calling it a step toward accountability. Some lawmakers are even pushing for sanctions, including visa bans and asset freezes on cattle herders accused of targeting Christian communities in Nigeria's Middle Belt. But both the African Union and China have rejected what they call U.S. interference, warning against any invasion threats. Beijing says it will continue to back Nigeria's efforts to fight terrorism and protect its citizens. It has pledged to continue supporting Nigeria in its fight against terrorism and ensuring the security of lives and property. Russia has also spoken out, urging all sides to follow international law and avoid escalating tensions. Back home, the Nigerian government says Washington's position is based on a misunderstanding. Officials insist that insecurity in the country affects all communities, Christians and Muslims alike. Information Minister Mohammed Idris says President Bola Tinubu's administration remains committed to ending terrorism and safeguarding religious freedom for everyone. He adds that Nigeria is working to help the international community better understand the realities on the ground. For Unwrap Africa, I am Tassim Akendi reporting from Nigeria.
Southern tourism is one of the sectors contributing to the economic development of countries on the African continent. Some of them have formulated policies aimed at encouraging tourism between capital cities. Our senior international news reporter, Didaba Tsotezi, is currently in Angola and went to explore that country.
Angola, a country with many popular destinations, has become one of the African countries experiencing a boom in tourism. Tourists from across the globe visited this beautiful country that offers a spectacular scenery like the Moon Viewpoint.
Right now we are some tourism point. We call it Moon Viewpoint, but in Portuguese is Miradouro da Lua. How you can see is a place that formed by natural, and how you can see right there has a, I can see right now it's like a green, but off of you you're gonna see like a red, and the other is, these formations come by raining. When it's raining, you can see it, all the natural things that is formed.
When there is moon at night, the area becomes brighter.
In the night, the moonlight shines very bright in this place, in these rocks. They say the rocks get shining, and during the day we have this beautiful view, but during the night we have like a show, like a light show, very, very beautiful, very nice.
The Moon Viewpoint also receives more rain than any other area in Angola.
When we are coming right here, I don't know if you guys see it, it's a little bit raining our way. Yeah, I think so, you're gonna see it.
Some Africans use the opportunity to visit tourist sites while they are in Angola.
This place is very beautiful. It gives a different flair of what we have in Zambia. I am coming from a landlocked country, so being here at the shores of Atlantic Ocean is amazing. But also the blend between the red rocks, you know, and these are not man-made, plus also the ocean. It's just so beautiful. I can't wait for the evening to see what they talk about the moon. But I've also been to a point around the Luanda area, they call it, for island, the main island. So I went to the furthest point and I was able to touch the waters. The food is beautiful, the fish is beautiful, it's wonderful. We do not have that experience, we always import. So to have it fresh from the sea itself, it's been an amazing experience. I'll definitely want to come back.
However, the local tourists do not seem to embrace the beauty of their country like their foreign counterparts.
The locals, they see always, okay, it's there. It's just a nice place, you know. They don't have the same enthusiasm as people from other places. I think this happens everywhere because we pass by, we come here every now and then, and we don't see it as that special. But when people from other places come here, yeah, they like it very much.
This area in the ancient history was used to detain slaves before they could be loaded onto the ships heading to Brazil and North America. With a market situated nearby, tourists are exposed to a variety of products, boosting the economy and creating jobs for locals.
I bought this piece of art at that market over there behind us. I had to negotiate because they costed me $200 and I had to negotiate down to $80, and it worked because I had cash. So you need to be like a cash, walk around with cash everywhere you go.
The country is also recovering from nearly 3 decades of civil war when many people were brutally killed. This military museum is a constant reminder that independence in Angola came at a costly price.
For us, this is a very important place because it's here who everything begins. So when we took down the Portuguese as colonies power, we took over the fortress. This is why it's called Fortress of São Miguel, because São Miguel was our leader who won this war at this place. So for us, it's like a very important, it shows us that if we unite together, if we get united and we show our strengths, we put our difficulties by side, we can win. We can win against any enemy.
And this is my first time in Luanda. I've heard about the history, the museum, and various artworks that you guys have been doing.
We have a beautiful country, first of all. You have a lot of things to visit. Like for today, we visit this museum. Is the can I say it in Portuguese? It's the Forças Armadas Museum. We visit the Miradouro da Lua.
Angola has also embarked on a journey to develop its infrastructure with many projects in the pipeline. For Unwrap Africa, Ditaba Tsotetsi in Luanda, Angola.
SABC, host broadcaster of the G20 South Africa 2025.
Well, with just about 2 weeks left before the start of the G20 Leaders Summit in South Africa, US President Donald Trump has now confirmed not a single member of his government will be traveling to South Africa to attend. He's still holding on to those false claims of an Afrikaner genocide in South Africa that ultimately led at the beginning of this year to his administration making provision for Afrikaners to be admitted to the United States as refugees. The South African government then responding to the Trump boycott, saying it is not true that white Afrikaners in this country are being persecuted and that its focus regarding the G20 is still regarding the more positive contributions of those discussions that will happen later in November. Meanwhile, world leaders must address the challenges of inequality as the gap is widening. That's the warning from the Nobel laureate, Professor Joseph Stiglitz, who's been speaking to SABC News ahead of the G20 summit on the 22nd and the 23rd of November.
Well, I think if leaders don't act, our societal divides are going to get larger and larger. There are very strong, what I call polarizing effects. And those polarizing economic effects then get reflected in our politics and our society. Those at the bottom know there's no way that they're going to get, they lack aspiration. Those at the top think they are entitled. Both of those are bad for the functioning of our society. And especially when people think that the inequalities are not deserved, they're a result of the system being rigged, of market power, there's resentment. It creates a fertile field for demagogues. And there's a large supply of demagogues everywhere in the world. So there's a lot of evidence of a link between inequality and democratic erosion. And so what worries me is that it is bad for our economy, but it's really bad for our democracies.
In terms of peace and stability, can this also affect the peace and stability?
Very much so, because demagogues like to make a great deal out of nationalism. What they do is to say, the reason you're poor is because somebody else. They blame immigrants, unfair trade. It's never what we as a society did to ourselves. It's never that we allowed the rich to steal from the poor, to have this market power. It's always blame the others. That's a lot easier. And demagogues specialize not in solving problems, but by amplifying hatreds. And we see that. I won't name any countries, but you can imagine where we're seeing that in various countries around the world. And that is very dangerous because as you start looking for enemies, you create conflict.
Well, then, let's remind you of our question tonight. What is your take on the US President Donald Trump's threat to send troops to Nigeria based on claims of alleged persecution of Christians in that country, despite the government denying that that's what's going on? Let's have a look at your responses. Roman here says, you don't care about the Christians in Lebanon or Palestine, but care about Christians in Nigeria because Nigeria's got oil? That's a question from Roman, I suppose, directed to President Trump. Pare here says the US must respect the sovereignty of Nigeria. They're not the world police. The issues of Nigeria must be raised at the UN Security Council and then follow proper protocol on interventions or solutions. Trump is meddling and just looking for attention. He displays no character of leadership. Well, one here from Olamile Akan says that Nigeria is currently in need of urgent help. The government's office holders paid terrorists to unleash, allegedly, mayhem on Christians in Nigeria and later offer amnesty to the killers. He says this must stop. SABC says it's just a threat. Temba Kabela saying they are after the oil and disguising it. So that's how it's looking as far as your responses to our questions this evening. We're asking you for your take on US President Donald Trump in the last week or so making a threat against Nigeria to basically send in troops based on these claims of the persecution of Christians. The government saying that is not what is going on. So what then lies ahead for Washington and Nigeria? We wait to see. Speaking of things that are coming, we will speak to Her Majesty Olori Atuwatse. That's the Queen, a Queen from Nigeria, on the Elevate Africa Summit, a premier event meant to unite industry leaders, innovators and regulators and to ultimately drive Africa's progress. Thanks for choosing Unwrap Africa on SABC News. Well, the organizers of the recently concluded Elevate Africa Summit held in Botswana this year are confident it will continue to grow from strength to strength, adding, if you will, to the direction that Africa takes, especially during conversations around entrepreneurship, business, and of course, innovation. Well, this week we've been able to sit down with the founder of the summit, Her Majesty Olori Atuwatse III from Nigeria, for her reflections on how Elevate has grown.
And welcome to Unwrap Africa, Your Majesty. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Sambonani, SABC. It's a blessing to be here. It's such an honor to join you.
Thank you.
And to be in Botswana, celebrating the beauty of Southern African excellence and just the beauty of the landscape. The space is so beautiful. I'm very glad to be here.
Let's start with what brings us to Botswana today. This is the second edition of the Elevate Africa Summit. Can you tell us more about the summit and what it means to the African continent?
The first one was in Nigeria, in Abuja, where His Majesty's kingdom is domiciled in Nigeria. And we chose the second. They say charity begins at home, so we did the first at home. But the second was very important for us, where we go next. You know, it's easy to do a nice big, announcement, but your second really defines you, and it defines your organization. And so choosing the next country as a Pan-African organization that is all about excellence and changing the narrative of Africa and amplifying her and broadcasting her as an excellent nation was very important. And I think Botswana was an excellent choice, or is an excellent choice, because Botswana is where quiet competence has met continental admission. They're absolutely, and they continue, the government and the people continue to set the benchmarks when it comes to governance, when it comes to fiscal stability, and spotlighting Botswana as that was important to us. We didn't want to do the typical South Africa. I mean, everyone knows South Africa's story, or Rwanda, which is also doing excellently well. in her government and her leadership.
Just briefly highlight what Elevate Africa is about and what it means for the continent and bringing all of Africa and her children together.
Yes. Elevate Africa, put very softly, it's a soft power organization, non-governmental, not-for-profit organization whose primary responsibility is to elevate Africa's self-image, how she sees herself, and also global perception, how the world perceives her, to shift Africa from the narrative of being weak, dependent, corrupt, to one that is empowered, collaborative, resilient, which is actually what she is. We're not cooking up stories that aren't true. We're just highlighting and spotlighting the brilliance that Africa already is as an organization. And we're doing this across 3 pillars: leadership and government, obviously, because the leaders particularly determine the trajectory of every nation and every country. And so we're speaking and having conversations and solutions and projects around leadership and governance. We're also having conversations, initiatives and projects around investment and trade, because the connectivity of Africa is absolutely important. And ultimately, it's all about the economies. Economies, without being too, speak to the prosperity of our people. And that's what matters. That's what sets, the money matters, essentially. And having conversations around that and providing solutions around the economies in Africa is absolutely important in elevating her status. And then culture and heritage, because Africa is deeply cultural. Culture speaks to the identity of a people, the belonging, the sense of belonging that we have. And though our culture is diverse, I believe that we have shared cultural experiences.
Something else you're very passionate about is the youth. Can you talk to us about how the summit aims to empower the youth from different countries on the continent?
I said it yesterday as well during my speech. I said our youth are not just a statistic to I think we have 1.4 billion youth or something on the continent, and our youth are not just a statistic, they are our added advantage. And Elevate Africa being a bridge, every time we come into a country, when we're sitting with governments or key stakeholders, we're saying, how can we activate your youth with you? What models can we use? What sectors can we come in to bring our network to invest in your youth, whether it be technology, which obviously is coming up, the creative industry as well. But it depends country by country and partner by partner. We're here to act as a bridge to bring our network and the people that we have into the country to say, these are the services and this is the pool of services that we have to offer. How can we then use this pool of services to serve the youth in your country and to elevate them and what they're looking to do? And so it's a partnership with the government of the nations that we're coming into. We're not just coming in and giving a blanket statement to them.
Your Majesty, another thing that you have started is a foundation. Can you tell us about what this foundation is about and how you intend to help the African continent with its work?
Okay, like I said, charity begins at home, and so the Royal Iwera Foundation is the brainchild of His Majesty and I, and the sole purpose of it is to build our people so that they can build their communities. We believe that our people, our women especially, and our youth are our highest resource, our greatest resource. And so human capital development is what we do by training and education, empowerment, and even with environmental trainings as well, around these 2 sector groups, to transform the lives of our women, to transform the lives of our youths, to help them in their spaces, in their different sectors that we're doing. And so we have programs and initiatives that are engineered to empowering women in the small to medium business space, re-engineering their minds around leadership, like I was just speaking to, and then activating them to upscale their businesses to move it from where it is today to where it needs to get to better our communities and better our cities. With the youth, we have a few programs for them around climate action, STEM, sending them back to school because there's a huge out-of-school issue. And so this is just in a nutshell some of the things that we're doing with our people at home.
Your Majesty, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us here on Unwrap Africa this evening, and hopefully with your next summit we will get an invite and we will definitely make it there.
Thank you so much for having me.
OUTsurance beat the rest of the market with a premium of just 1,613 Rand a month for Neo's BMW X3. Janine's Picanto is pretty as a picture, and so is her premium, just 561 Rand a month. Helena went round and round trying to find the lowest premium and found it at OUTsurance. Go to outsurance.co.za for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands.
Well, before we go, the AI Expo Africa has again been held in Johannesburg here in South Africa recently, unveiling game-changing innovations like advertising robots and AI-powered creative apps that are redefining the continent's tech landscape. Our producer, Nonhlanhla Mthembu, attended the gathering and sent us these highlights.
The AI Expo Africa 2025 saw innovators and entrepreneurs who are pushing the boundaries of what's possible with artificial intelligence.
It is an amazing platform where we get to firstly network with other founders around me, but as well as gauge the appetite for AI automation. And we're here to help founders and entrepreneurs leverage AI capabilities.
From advertising robots to AI-powered apps, the future is here and Africa is embracing it.
I am with my friend here, Uputi. This is who we would normally call a brand ambassador. Melissa is going to introduce Uputi to us.
It is fully AI functional with an advertising screen in the front, which you could use as videos, still images, as well as post your QR code so consumers can engage. AI functionality, it roams around. Ubuti can also, as I said, engage with consumers.
With AI, everything is different. Knowledge is easily accessible. Human creativity is what we want to encourage.
I've seen many people are more talking about AI. They are coming with a solution. They are talking about learnings, how they can implement this solution into their systems.
If there was more active, proactive policy enablement from African governments, you'll find that rollout will accelerate. I can tell you that we are in touch with technology guys in many parts of Africa. They are ready.
Some believe that the continent is not yet ready for AI.
I don't think Africa is ready for AI right now. We don't yet have a proven structure of how things work, right? There's still a lot of things that are not yet working correctly. So we can't implement AI because AI, what it does is it multiplies things. It doesn't just optimize, but it multiplies and accelerates.
Africa can provide expertise to the rest of the world because we have the young people, we have talent that is growing.
Well, if I'm not replaced by a robot, we're back here 8 p.m. next Sunday on SABC News. But coming up next is the G20 Focus with Thulasizwe Simelane. And here's what they're looking at this evening. They're asking whether world leaders are willing to end global inequality after an alarming report released by a group of experts accepted by President Cyril Ramaphosa earlier this week. So that's Thulasizwe Simelane and the G20 Focus team coming up at 8:30. That's it from the Unwrap Africa team. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.